Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Resident Rule Breakers. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Cleo.
And this is our second episode of 2021. And today's podcast, we will be discussing all the news that has come out in the past month, I guess, since we last recorded, except for the interview you got last week, since we last recorded a podcast.
Yeah, when was the last time we recorded?
Back in the middle of December 12th.
Yeah, second week of December, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is pretty much a follow-up of everything that's come out in that time period.
So how was your holiday?
It was very low-key.
Yeah.
With coronavirus and everything, my dad didn't want to take any chances. I didn't get to see anybody but my dad, my stepmom, my stepsister, my brother-in-law, and my biological mother.
Well, mine was okay. We have family, cousins, uncle. And then, we went. My family goes to Disney, Aulani Resort, which is the hotel here. We went for New Year's. This was our yearly thing. My parents have like a membership or whatever. So we went, don't worry, we stayed mostly inside our hotel room. Every time we were out in the hallways or anything like that, we were wearing a mask or whatever. But yeah, it was really fun. We had a low-key.
The news on the new episodes, we have 3 press releases that have come out in about a month time span, because our episodes are going to air back to back to back to back. We're not going to have one of those crazy hiatuses where they'll air 3 episodes and then go on hiatus and air 4 more episodes. No, we're not going to do that. They're literally going to air them back to back to back, which is good for many fans because you complain about it when they do the hiatus breaks.
Yeah.
However necessary they may be. But anyways, the premiere will air this week, January 12th, which is Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Fox. And if you can't watch it live, watch it on Hulu. It's worth
the next day.
Yes, the next day. It comes in the ratings. So
yeah.
If you watch it within a week, it counts in the ratings.
Yes. Like so watch it repeatedly. But yeah, people always complain about, having to pay for Hulu or for the streaming device or whatever. It's the cheapest is like $5. That's cheaper than a hamburger meal at McDonald's. If you can go through a drive-through and get a McDonald's meal, you can afford a Hulu subscription. That's it. We do not promote any illegal websites or any illegal ways to watch the show because they don't count as ratings. And if you
want to keep the show stay on the air, the ratings matter. That's all Fox is looking at, guys.
So if you want, I honestly don't know how people can say that they're a fan of a show if they're going to watch it illegally and not have their viewership count. You know what I mean? Just stupid. But yeah.
But so 3 press releases have come out. The first 3 episodes. We have a lot more material. The closer to it it'll be airing. So the premiere, called A Wedding, a Funeral. And as you know, remember last week, it's written by Daniela and Eric. And it was directed by Rob Korn, who is a resident veteran and also has directed many episodes of Grey's Anatomy. So yes. This episode, if you haven't seen all the press material on this episode, it's overwhelming. It really is. But there's photos, obviously.
There's a wedding and a funeral.
Yes, and there's a wedding and a funeral. There's the Connick wedding is what they're referencing. Connick get married. And from what we can tell from what Danielle and Eric told us last week is the wedding is a bookend.
Yep.
So they're starting with it. There's a sneak peek out with Conrad and Nick planning their wedding. They're talking about DJs and and other things that,
flowers,
and food.
food.
So they're always, these are typical things you talk about when you plan a wedding. But
the little scene where Conrad remembered what flowers he gave Nick for the first date, and that he wanted that to be part of her bouquet. I literally was like, "Oh, that is so cute."
Yeah, it is precious.
Because Nick even forgot too. And usually, it's the men who forget. But Nick was the one who
not Conrad.
that was so sweet. I actually like that.
Yeah. But the wedding is going to be a bookend, and they're going to be, from what we can tell, is they're going to be remembering the early days of the pandemic and what they had to get through to get to this point. So,
so for those who, I know there's going to be COVID complainers. COVID is only for one episode.
One episode. Please, the writers, especially Daniela, because she's lived through it, as we mentioned last week, is just the fact that they wanted to honor the people who are on the front line fighting this to this day.
Yes. They wrote this they started writing this back in May or June.
Mm-hmm.
When they were writing it, they were optimistic that by the time January came, COVID would be in the past. So they wanted to touch on COVID, but not
not pull a Grey's Anatomy where it lasts the whole season.
Yeah. So, but yeah, beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why they made it so that it would be a flashbacks, because when they were writing 7 months ago, they were hoping that by this time it would be already done. So yes, just
unfortunately it is not, but this new season will be set in a semi post-COVID world where the pandemic somewhat got under control. The vaccine rollout has been done, all this stuff, and a much happier world than what we're currently living through. So there's that. The funeral, we have pretty much surmised at this point that Devin's mother passes away from COVID-19.
Yeah.
So Devin's going to be dealing with a storyline of grief this year, and it'll be interesting to see how Manish pulls this off. Yeah.
Also, Princess is back.
Yeah.
Lady,
I did see a clip with her. Also, Nurse Hundley ends up getting COVID, and there's a clip in an interview, and we're going to mention this later on in the podcast, with Matt, with her fighting COVID. So you go check that out. It's on our Instagram. So there's all that, and then there's 2 more sneak peeks. We've mentioned the wedding vows were already released last week. We mentioned it, and then of course there is a Minotaur sneak peek for the Minotaur fans of them.
That is so cute. She is so. The scene with Mina and AJ is just the cutest thing ever. Where she's what is that thing that he?
It's a mask, but it's to prevent his beard from getting contaminants in it or something.
I've never seen a mask like that.
Me neither.
But yeah, I mean, the little scene where she's helping him put on the mask and the little looks that they were exchanging, I'm like, oh.
So if you haven't seen these sneak peeks, they are on our Instagram.
Yes.
At The Resident Podcast. You can go check that out. And so that's pretty much really all they've really released a lot of information on one episode. We've seen a lot of the episode already.
Yes.
But please watch the episode live or watch it on Hulu, please.
I think there's also been a couple of promo pics come out too for 401 new ones as well. So yeah, check them out. We all have it all on Facebook and on Instagram. So, but yeah.
But okay, 402, which airs next week, January 19th.
Yes.
402 is called
Mina's Kangaroo Court.
And I did some research into this when the title released. The definition from Google is an unofficial court held by a group of people in order to try someone regarded, especially without good evidence, as guilty of a crime or a misdemeanor. So take that as you will from that description. But the press release that came out has Mina and AJ at odds with each other about a patient that Kane did an elective surgery on that has complications. So also, essentially, I have a feeling that this is Mina and she's going to take charge over a decision that AJ. Anyway, they're going to butt heads, which is, for Minotaur fans, I don't know if they're going to be happy or not, but every now and then conflict does need to happen.
Also, episode 2 is when Belle's stepson is introduced.
Yes, Belle's former stepson, played by Conrad Ricamora, who this is his first episode of The Resident. Who there were some promo pics of him released from TV Line, and so there's that as well. And because Belle, he does some soul searching because he lost a lot of his colleagues during the pandemic, and he's trying to find where he fits in. So he's reaching out to people in his past, primarily his former stepson, to try to figure it out. This is what I'm taking from everything. There's another plot line that says Devin is opening up about his grief about his mother passing away, and then also Conrad and Devin treat a congresswoman who has a secret that's preventing them from giving proper care, which is a typical storyline in The Resident. But there's promo photos on our social media. So you can check those out. The stuff with Conrad Ricamora, the promo photos, other promo photos made by Guy. They're all out there for you to look at for next week's episode called Mina's Kangaroo Court. And so there's that. And then 403, press release just released this week. So brand new information called The Accidental Patient, airs on the 26th. And this looks like a Kane episode. Kane gets hit by a car at a crash scene he's trying to help with, and he gets injured, and the other doctors have to save his life. It's ironic that the hospital he tried to undermine is now banding together to save his life despite everything.
I mean, that's his job. As a doctor. That's the job of the doctors at the hospital.
But a lot of people said it was ironic that now he's at their mercy. So.
Yeah, that's just the job of doctors. You can't pick and choose.
That is the Hippocratic oath that they take. Religion, skin color, no matter what, you take care of the patient.
No matter whether you like the patient or not. You gotta treat them. There's that's why when the whole LGBTQ thing was going on, where doctors can refuse LGBTQ patients, etc. I was like, what part of the Hippocratic Oath said do no harm except for people whose lifestyles I don't agree with. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. But I was just bringing up that's the comments I was seeing across our Facebook group, across Instagram, across Twitter about this plotline. But also during this car crash, there's another victim, and Conrad and Nick team up to help this victim, but they can't get a proper diagnosis. So Conrad's the diagnostician of the team. So if Conrad can't figure it out, we're in trouble.
Yep.
The Bale's plotline in the episode, according to the press release, is he's going back to his TV show and he's bringing them to Chastain for publicity.
Yeah.
And then the big one that caused a lot of comments, other than the Kane one, was Mina opens up to Nick about a secret, and then Nick opens up to Mina about a secret of her own. And everyone's asking, what is Nick's secret? What is she going to open up about? And I have a feeling this secret ties into the new girl coming in, played by Jessica Lucas, who plays her friend, and who Fox has hinted that she's coming in to help Conrad and Nick deal with this. So I think this is a stepping stone to that plotline starting. Whatever it may be. Prediction was, a lot of it was Nick has, she's dealing with her panic attacks. She's trying to deal with maybe her issues from her miscarriage, which would be awesome if they were going to touch on that. So, because this girl that came in, she was a neurosurgery resident that got cut because of a medical error. So she obviously got to the point where she finished medical school. But a childhood friend of Nick's named Billy. This is the big casting news. New main cast member, Jessica Lucas from Gotham. If you guys know who she is, she's from Gotham.
I've never heard of her. I've never watched Gotham. Have you?
I didn't either, but I had to pull a show that she'd been in so people could register who she was.
But have you watched Gotham?
No. But her name is Billy. She's a childhood friend of Nick's. And so we don't really know when her first episode is going to be. She's not credited to any of the press releases that have come out so far. But I have a feeling that it's going to be soon, because Nick's secret, I have a feeling, is going to be what brings her in. That's my prediction. That's my prediction. So there's that. So welcome to the cast, Jessica. We look forward to
I would
seeing
assume
you.
Since we have the first 3 episodes that so far, I would assume the earliest that she's going to be on the show is on the 4th.
Yeah, that's
4th episode. So
earliest prediction right now is that.
But with only 14 episodes, she's only going to be on the show at maximum 10 episodes this season. That's crazy. Anyway,
interviews. There have been at least 4 interviews released. Well, over the weekend. Let's just put it like that. On Friday, at least 4 interviews released. 2 with Matt, 2 with Malcolm. And Matt did an interview via video call from the set. You could tell it was from the set. You could see the surgery suite in the background. But he did it from set to Good Day LA, which he did a really good interview, about 7 minutes long, I think. They had a clip in there of Nurse Hunley battling COVID, but he talks about the COVID plot. He talks about the wedding, and he just lights up when he speaks comic. So it's a good interview. Definitely go check it out. And but then there's another one, a written interview from TV Insider with Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz. And he and Henry Winkler talk about their careers, and he talks about a little about Gilmore Girls, a little about Good Life, a little about The Resident. And they talk about being typecasted. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So if you're a Matt fan, check that one out. And then Malcolm, he had an interview with Claudia Jordan, and she's associated with Fox, I think. And he talked about Bill Cosby. He talked about a lot of the stuff that we covered in our interview with Malcolm. He covered again, blatantly word for word.
I know. I watched that interview. And
it's really nothing new. It's pretty much word for what he covered in the same interview that we
Did
did.
Claudia listen to our podcast?
So really what Malcolm talked about, he did talk about the new season and the protocols that they're under to film.
Yeah.
And so did Matt. So if you're wondering how they handle it, just listen to what they talk about in these interviews, because they'll tell you. And then there's another interview which Malcolm, really a lot of stuff we already know about him was from written one from AM New York, talking about his theater background and stuff, which we also covered in our interview. So, but if you're a Malcolm fan, they're good. They're good interviews, nonetheless. Okay, that's really all. I mean, that was a lot of news, and we really wanted to cover the new stuff for the episodes and the new casting and everything to make sure that y'all are prepared going into the new season.
I'm excited. I really am. I'm really, really excited. Is the benefit of like having this podcast, having talked to Daniela and Eric, and also having the chance to talk to several members of the cast. I feel like we're so invested in it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So Tuesday night, 8 p.m., 7 p.m. if you're in Central Time. And then if you can't watch live, it's going to be on Hulu by, I'd say, 3 a.m. East Coast time. It'll be there waiting for you to watch. And please watch it within a week to count in the ratings. And
yeah.
So, and we'll be back next week with another podcast discussing the premiere in detail. So, spoilers and the whole 9 yards. And so that'll be on the 18th. We'll release that one. Then, of course, 402 we'll release on the 25th. 403's discussion will release on the 1st of February. So that's as far as I'm going right now, because that's really as far as I know. But for you to contact us, whatever the case may be, we have an email. It's the residentrulebreaker@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page, Resident Rule Breakers Podcast Facebook page. And then we have a group called the Resident Fox Fans. It's linked to the page. That's where you're going to get a lot of sweet information from people involved in the show, from you're going to get really like that press release that 403. I had it up before many of the other websites did, and it was in that group that morning. So so you're going to get very up-to-date information on things like that.
Yep.
Instagram, which is a big one for us, the one we keep pointing you to, because we put the sneak peeks and the photos and press releases, all that stuff. It's on that page, so you can't miss it. The Resident Podcast. That's what it's called, at the Resident Podcast. Camille has an Instagram where she pretty much shares all the stuff from the podcast page, pretty much, called the Resident on Fox Fans. So you can go there as well, get all the Resident news. I have a personal Instagram, KB Country 37. Again, it's truly a personal Instagram. You're going to see more personal stuff on mine. Twitter, at Resident Podcast. We try to keep Twitter as up to date as we keep Facebook and Instagram, but sometimes it can be very difficult. But we try. And so follow us on our social media. Email us if you have a question. Remember, we're just fans, just like you. So we have a Patreon. So if you want behind the scenes information on the podcast, like say I usually put together the cover art and stuff for each podcast prior to us releasing it. Obviously, you'll get to see that prior to the podcast coming out, whatever week. With the show and how close they post photos and things, these sneak peeks are probably going to be coming closer to the air dates of the episodes, because I honestly can't make them until I've seen the episode. So
Yeah. Yeah. We
except
have to
for the
wait till
premiere,
it's released and stuff.
the premiere was something we knew the Conant wedding was there. But a lot of times I can't make a podcast title without knowing the specific plot point on how the episode made me feel or whatever the case may be. A lot of times an emotion will make me make something different. That's the way it is with my graphics. Sometimes it's very emotional. But you'll get to see them prior to the podcast releasing. That you will get to see. So $1 a month, you can go to patreon.com/the Resident Podcast. It's little than $1 a month, and you can get all that sneak peek information.
It's fun. Like we said last week, our patrons were the first to know about the interviews that we had and stuff. So they were the first also to see all of our news and things like that. So like I said, if you want to not just listen to our podcast, but see behind the scenes stuff, first be the first to see things happening, please, $1.
It's literally it. As little as $1. We don't make any money off of this, so all that money, it goes right back into podcast. So how to listen, we're hosted on Podbean, so that's the number one thing that I usually put out. So Podbean, and then from there, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course we have our YouTube channel, which for very special things like interviews, you'll get a full video, but for the rest of the time, you're going to get an audio only like this one. And so one more little tidbit of news for the people in Holland, you're going to get the premiere on January 26th. That information to me. So season 4 will start in Holland on January 26th. Don't know anything else about anyone else, but so tune in next week to hear our discussion on the season 4 premiere, and tune in Tuesday night on Fox at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, or on Hulu within the next following week behind it to watch the premiere and keep it in the ratings. So, with all that being said, I'm Kayla.
I'm Camille.
Bye, guys.